destined to perform. But then an angel came one day, told me to kneel down and pray, for unto me a man-child would be born. Oh, this crazy circumstance, I knew his life deserved a chance, but everybody told me to be smart. Look at your career, they said, Lauren, baby, use your head. But instead I chose to use my heart. Now the joy of my world is in Zion. Now the joy of my world is in Zion. How beautiful is nothing more than to wait at Zion's door. I've never been in love like this before. Now let me pray to keep you from the perils that will surely come. See, life for you, my prince, has just begun. And I thank you for choosing me to come through unto life to be a beautiful reflection of his grace. See, I know that a gift so great is only one God could create. And I'm reminded every time I see your face that the joy of my world is in Zion. Now the joy of my world is in Zion. Now the joy of my world is in Zion. Now the joy of my world is in
This is CHH My Radio 580 AM, locally operated, locally owned, your own radio station, My Radio 580 AM, bringing Albertans together.
Yes, yo. Good morning, one and all. It is Sunday morning here in the city. As I look out the window, I don't see any snow this morning. I hope I haven't jinxed myself, because yesterday I was like here in studio. I looked out the window. I was like, it's kind of white outside. Threw me off for a minute. But I'm your host, Big G, riding here shotgun in the driver's seat. The Sacred Sunday Conversations. On the line, of course, we have the one and only spiritual doula, Hatho-Ra, in the house.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
That's right.
And I see, you know what I did today?
What'd you do today?
I actually put the video on today.
Oh, so you can see me and Millie hanging out in the studio?
Oh, yes.
and that's right.
So
we have
fun.
And we have a special guest in the house.
Mm-hmm. And I want to welcome Millie to the show. And Millie is not only, I'm going to let her introduce herself shortly, but she's not only a beautiful soul and a therapist, but you don't meet a lot of people that's very clear about their vision and what they bring on this earth. So it's a pleasure to bring Millie on today to have beautiful sacred conversations on today's Sunday Sacred Conversation. So, Millie, I would like you to introduce yourself to the audience. Where are you from? What do you do? You know, let's get a little nosy here.
Well, before we get nosy, we have a tradition on this show.
Oh, yes.
That's right. We always start off with some shout-outs.
Yes.
That's right. Is anyone you want to give a shout-out to, Millie, before we get things cracking?
There's going to be too many people. I guess I'd say...
Don't let me play the awards music.
This is not a 10-minute speech. I want to say thank you too. But no, I guess probably my sister, my brothers, and my best friends. Yeah, just the people that get to sit with me and iron out some of these thoughts and, you know, the sacredness that happens in this mind sometimes. Yeah, so everyone who listens to me and also just my community within the wellness space. Yeah, just some brilliant minds, brilliant souls.
Cool. How about you, Miss Hatho-Ra?
You know, it's always my mom and my brother and sister and some of my sister friends. I belong to a sacred leadership group, so there's a group of us that went through rites of passage. And for me, I didn't know how much it was a luxury to have safe people around. I thought it was normal. I thought everybody had that, and not everybody has that. And not everybody has that one or two or three people that they could have high-level conscious conversations or be ratchet at the same time with no judgment. So shout out to my sacred sisters as well.
Sweet.
And my son.
Awesome. And of
What
course,
about you?
Well, of course, our brother BK, he's in the UK right now, but he does chime in. He actually called me last week from the UK.
Oh, wow.
And so he's going to be back in town next week. And of course, Mama Zita, she was in the hospital for a little bit, but she's out now. Came out last week. So
good.
she is home listening to us. She's been listening to us from day one.
Yeah.
Day one.
Yeah.
Along with BK
Yeah.
and the crew. And of course, to my own mom and sister back home. We had a little bit of accident at home this week. Some wingnut ran into the wall of our like separating the yard from the road.
What?
And damaged the wall. And but luckily no one got hurt. No one, well he got hurt. He got shook, but no one died. And there's a little hole in the wall of our fence now. But you know what? No one died, so that's what I'm happy about.
Yeah, no one got hurt.
No one got hurt.
In Jamaica, it's tricky with those drivers, man.
Oh, you know, I'll tell you about it afterwards, but I was just like, I shook my head. I was like, really?
Oh, my God. That's an off-air conversation.
It's an off-air conversation. But for Millie, honte ni kyo wa arigatou gozaimashita. How's you doing?
So introducing myself.
Dropped some Japanese on her a while ago.
I know.
But I think Hatho-Ra threw me off at that description of someone who is very clear in their vision and what they bring to this earth. I'm like, who? But I think that's the beauty of community, right? Other people get to see you and reflect you back to yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, actually, I am that person. So thank you. But yeah, my name is Millie. I am a multi-faceted individual, I guess is how I describe myself. So I'm originally from Zimbabwe, Canadian by, yes, shout out to my Zims. So some people would consider me fairly new as a Canadian because it's been under 10 years, but more than 5, I'm in that in between. But I work in business development is a large part of it, but mostly I would identify as a counselor, an educator, an advocate, and a citizen of the world. I think I'm really passionate about people and understanding people, and bringing curiosity and encouraging curiosity over judgment, because a lot of our issues and the things that we perceive issues within ourselves or within our community is mostly misunderstandings, right? So when we can be curious and understand each other a little bit more, I think it takes away the conflict, the confusion. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That is beautiful, Millie, because I know I still have moments of judgment when I should have moments of curiosity, as you said. And that just changes the whole perception of people, of life, when I start to ask questions. Like, maybe they're not a jerk. Maybe there's a reason. Why are they, acting this way, type of thing. And so what's coming to mind is that we weren't all born like that, because we're kind of conditioned in a judgmental society, right? What inspired you to shift from, you know what, I'm going to stop judging these people, to start asking questions and be curious about people? Like, who and what inspires you to make that shift?
I think that would be a two-part experience for me. And you've alluded to both. One of the things would be how we're raised, right? How we're socialized. So both of my parents were teachers, both of them were philosophers, both of them were counselors. And just even seeing how they interacted with people, it was always the curiosity first. Sometimes, when you're younger, you're like, but why are you like that? Like, can't you see what they're doing? And it's just like, let it play out. So, my dad had a statement, and my sister loves this one, like, time will either prove you or disprove you. Like, just give them space, give them room.
Oh, Can you repeat that?
So time will either prove you or disprove you, right? So you just, same applies to anyone, any situation. You give it enough time and you just stay curious and open with it, you'll find out what's real. You'll find out the truth. So that's definitely the one part. And then I think just my own self journey, when I became curious with myself and kinder with myself, I could be curious about people, right? And not necessarily just approach people with, well, this is what's probably wrong with them, or this is how they view me, and this is what the world looks like. But if I can acknowledge that I'm complicated, I have good days, I have bad days, I am not wholly good or wholly bad. Like, I'm just figuring it out. So everybody probably is too.
That, what you just said, kind of, I have so many questions now. Because what's coming to my mind is that, there's a saying I always say, you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't have patience for yourself, you can't give patience out in this world. If you don't have love for yourself, you can't give love to the world. If you don't have harmony and grace for yourself, trust for yourself. So for you, that's kind of what was coming up. But the question I have, or the conversation that I kind of want to jump into now, is, can people actually heal? Can people actually heal? Because I have some people that says, no, it's an everlasting journey. And then I have some people, and even elders, said, no, you absolutely can heal and become a whole new person. So for you, having your own self-discovery and your own journey, and you work with people who the world would consider broken. I don't think anybody's broken. I just don't think they've discovered their true selves, but that's a whole different topic. So do you think that people actually can heal? And if you have testimony of the types of people you've worked with, that would be great.
Thora, early in the morning, you're just like, let's go for the hot ones. Like, let's get in there. Hey,
we go after it.
Like, dive deep. Okay. Am I allowed to say I don't know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the sense that there's no one answer. Like, it's not a simple thing, right? I think I agree with the idea that we're never necessarily wholly healed, But we even go back into the definition of like, what does it mean to heal and be healed? Because the way we're defining that now, especially with the commercialization of wellness, is different, right? But I do subscribe to the idea that it is an ongoing journey. Even with like, people that I support, it's always the idea of being less than X. So being less afraid, being less anxious, being less depressed, right? Is that journey to healing, or being more stable, more whole, right? That would be going towards like healing. But to put, a spot or a marker to say I am healed, I think is almost like an unfair expectation on self, because there's always stuff that's coming up. Like sometimes we feel like we're past an anxiety, or we're past family drama, or we're past a conflict, or past a wound, right? Or past a trauma, and then something else happens. Does that mean I am less healed now because this thing has happened, versus there's a new door that has opened, or a new layer that has been uncovered that I get to work with? So I think it's an ongoing journey, but can we at some point look at it and be like, I am whole in this space, like I am healed? And for me, healing and wholeness kind of would be the same thing, right? I think, yeah, they can be points in time, but overall it's ongoing.
That's interesting, because I have an elder that says, the question that she always offers is, how quickly can I get to God and God consciousness? So how quickly can I get to peace? How quickly can I get to calmness, to understanding, to love? How quickly can I get to love? And so on a healing journey, for some people, how quickly can I get to love takes 3 months after a traumatic event or an upsetting conversation. It might take 3 years for some people. And for some people, it takes 3 seconds or 3 days or 3 minutes. So for me, I look at healing, like you said, it is a journey where it's like, how quickly can I get to that point where I'm not emotionally triggered or upset? Because the closing of that gap, because before it would take me 3 months for certain situations. Now I can take a breath and it takes me 3 seconds. And now sometimes I don't even get upset at all at some of those things I would have like 10 years ago. So when I look at healing, like you said, it's hard to say it's complete, because I guess it depends on the situation. But when we look at the brain and the rewiring of the brain, what would you say to that? Because a trauma brain and a healed brain are two different wiring, neural pathways, right? 100%. What would you say if someone says, you know what, I've been violated by my family and I'm going to work on my healing and work on forgiveness, and they do the work to change their thoughts, change their feelings, and change their actions? What would you say about a brain like that? Can that brain be considered healed?
Yeah, I think, here's the thing. I think firstly there's a misunderstanding, right, of even what trauma is and what it does. A lot of the times what we suffer, or what people suffer, is the response to the trauma long before the trauma has happened, right? So if you look at it as pain is inevitable, suffering can be prolonged, right? So we can then develop patterns, or the way we feel about ourselves, or how safe we feel within ourselves. That's what stays long after the trauma. And so the healing is coming back to ourselves. It's like coming back home, in a sense. And it might not be who I would have been if things had never happened, because they happened and they've inevitably changed me, right, and shaped me. But what does home feel like within myself? Who am I despite this? Who am I with it, beyond it? So in that sense, I would say, like, for example, when I'm working with clients that have trauma, it's that idea of like coming back home, feeling safe within self, feeling like I have power, I can make choices, I can have movement, I can play, right? Healing looks like play. Like when I can laugh again, when I can dance in the rain without fear of judgment or consequence, when I can just choose to do things that are true to me and feel like home, that to me is what starts to communicate, okay, I'm on that journey. Right? I'm closer to where I want to be.
I have a question though for both of you. So, and this is just my thought on it when the word healing, right? Nothing ever heals back to what it was originally. So, isn't part of that healing process accepting what the new look or reality is, and then working within that reality? Like the analogy I give is like if something is at home and you're like, say you're changing a part in a car. Very often the part doesn't go back on the same way it came off, but it will go back on. Doesn't healing necessarily work the same way after an event?
I would say yes, but I would challenge it a little bit in the sense of like, it might never go back to how it used to be, like you're saying, right? But I get to define what it is, who I am, right? And that's that coming back home. Like, you know, when you say, okay, now my engine is a hybrid, I've got a bit of a Camaro, right? Like,
If you show up in a hybrid Camaro, you need to give up the keys and.
but like, you know, when you're like, okay, now this is a fusion. I am this and that. Like, it doesn't have to be one way, because sometimes when we're trying to force that part or force the fit, that is still the unhealing. So it's, I think when you were talking, what was coming up to me was alchemy.
Okay.
Right? So we get to alchemize. It's like, okay, I get to take this, and it can be something beautiful. Someone used the image of a vase, like a broken vase. And when you piece it together, like, you might not go for super glue. You might go for like a gold glue and ink. And like, it becomes something almost completely new, completely different. But it's got the pieces of what it originally was, as well as what we allowed it to become. So when you say that, I'm like, okay, we can alchemize for sure. And that, to me, yeah, is definitely part of the healing journey. I get to remix.
All right.
I look at it very similar as what Millie said, is retelling the story. I know we got to go on a commercial soon. Retelling the story. But for me, it's retelling the story to get to my higher self. Before we were born, we existed. And that existence, for me, I call it my higher self. So how can I retell the story and redefine myself to get to that higher self, and not only being, yep, we're going to come right back.
Well, we come right back after this one.
अफसाना है माय रेडियो, हर दिल का तराना है माय रेडियो, एक नया ज़माना है माय रेडियो, माय रेडियो, माय रेडियो.
My Radio 580 AM, bringing Albertans together.
Think about
Yeah, we are back here in the studio. That was a little bit of Freddie McGregor, Nice Time. Millie was rocking out to it. She's just like, this is like Sunday morning back home.
I know the music. I'm missing the food. I want to start smelling the seasonings of the food, cooking and preparing for the day, But I'm going to get hungry, so I'm not even going to go there right now. To complete my thought, and I have a question for Millie after, is that for the healing process is, yes, retelling your story and knowing that we can use our thoughts, our feelings, our intelligence, our emotions, our actions to retell that story to get to not even get to a place, but to remember truly who we are and remember our authentic self and remember that we have a higher self and that higher self is connected to infinite intelligence. And so whatever tools and methods that we have to use to get there, for me, if it's retelling your story, if it's moving somewhere, if it's changing your environment, if it's exercising or eating clean, whatever it is, to choose that method to remember truly who we are. So I just kind of wanted to complete that thought. But Millie said alchemy. I want you, in your own words, if possible, like, what does alchemy mean to you? What is your definition of alchemy? Because for some people, they've never heard this word before, or at least understand what it even means to use alchemy or be an alchemist. I see you thinking.
And well, this is a problem when you're like someone who's in your head a lot sometimes, right? Like you've grasped it and to try and explain it. But someone recently said if you can't explain it to a 3-year-old, you haven't fully understood it. So I'm gonna give it a go. Right? Because we can become the grand risings, which is great, but it's like explain it, I think one simple way to explain alchemy would be like the way we can, when you take, what is it? Diamond is basically like glass, which is basically sand. So when you are leveling up something and turning it from its simplest form into its most glorious form, I guess would be the easiest way I would say it, right? So just, like how diamonds are made or how gold is made. It comes up as this clumpy, dirty-looking, metal
piece of coal,
right? Like a rock, and then someone actually tells you, no, this is a diamond. It just needs some refining. It just give it time, give it some pressure. So I think that would be how I would describe it. And then in terms of like our human journey or our self journey, going back into what you were talking about, connection and reconnecting and remembering who we are. That's the alchemy. It's taking those pieces of who I know I am and I can be and what has happened and what I've experienced and what I've been exposed to, and saying this is what this becomes, right? Because we get to choose. We get to choose how the story plays out. We get to choose the life that we live. But when we've been through it, when we've been violated or when the system hasn't shown us that, or we haven't been truly exposed to that, it seems like a very foreign idea. But I think that's where I would go with it.
I think alchemy is so beautiful to get familiar with because it gives hope, right? Exactly like what you said. You taking this piece of rock or metal or stone, or if it's a diamond, it would look kind of like a coal, like really ugly, and it's like, ew, what's this? This is not pretty. But it's actually a diamond. And when the environment of that ugly piece of stone is changed to an environment, and for that piece it would be heat, right? Adding pressure and heat. The beauty of it comes out. And so if we were to use alchemy in this day and time where, the economic world is like, I don't know what it is for some people, but it's not good for some people, or job security or post-COVID things, how would you suggest that someone could use the energy of alchemy or the meaning of alchemy for their, let's say, mental, spiritual, and emotional wellness.
Mm-hmm. I think it keeps coming back to that, remember who you are, right? So remember the baseline, remember the things that you're good at, remember your own worth. Because when we've been struggling or when we're facing challenges, it can become hard to truly see ourselves. We're in survival mode. We're just dealing with things as they come up. So it's that taking the time to really sit down and be like, wait, who am I really? Who do I want to be? What have I learned? What has this taught me? Right? Like, for COVID is a great example. Yes, it created disconnect, and some people lost jobs, some people's health deteriorated, but it also taught us resilience. I can take that, right? It also showed me the value of connection within myself or with community and other people, because when I wasn't seeing people, I realized I actually need people. I can take that, right? Someone else has had to move across the world, learn new skills, build new community, make new friends. Well, it turns out I'm not, shy, or I'm not dumb. Like, I'm smart enough to figure out all of these changes. So it's remembering those lessons that we've learned and really taking it in and reconnecting with self and seeing ourselves as people with infinite possibility, right? Like, there's so much more possibility. And then couple that with like some tenderness with ourselves and love to just be like, okay, what do I need? Where do I need to go from here?
Oh my gosh, I have 2 questions. Greg, do you have any questions?
No, hit it.
This is like, so a couple things. What's coming up for me is probably, this is not a question, more like a comment, is that because some people don't know how to show grace and love and tender for themselves. I had one person says, I can't even imagine what peace and calmness look for my life because I've been living in survival mode for like over 2 decades. Right? So what can someone do on a daily basis? I call it daily hygiene, spiritual hygiene, emotional hygiene. What are some things that a person can do to get to that place? Because they may not know what that place either looks like, sounds like, feels like, because they've never had it. They've only know trauma from childhood, from teenage. Like, they only know survival mode. And we won't get into it today, but once we know something, we magnetize that and we attract more circumstances, people, places, and things and events that mimic that vibration. So some people don't even know that when they shift their vibration, they can shift their reality. That's one thing. But in terms of the day-to-day, the practicality of moving from here to there, what would you consider some of the hygiene if someone wants to experience self-tender love and care for themselves? What are some things that they can do on a day-to-day basis?
So I actually love this question because it comes back to that, my African philosophies growing up of we are holistic beings, right? We are a body, however, you make it make sense from whatever lens of spirituality or understanding that you use. We can all agree that as a human being, I am multiple things, right? So I always say going into the body is one way to start that. If emotionally and like cognitively, mentally, I can't see myself as someone lovable, or I can't see, myself giving me grace, or I can't be tender with myself because I grew up with a lot of criticism, or because the system tells me I'm not worth it, or whatever it is. Going back into our bodies, like the very base part of ourselves. I was talking to a friend the one time, and she was like, yeah, same question that you're asking. I was like, pay attention to how you eat, how you shower, how you walk, how you talk. What's going on with you when you're getting ready for the day? Is it like a quick scrub, like everything is rough, like how you like to say, like you're just rough with yourself, versus like the slowness and the tenderness that is there, because it then communicates to my brain, hey, I'm safe, like this is chill, this is good. Like I can take care of me. Like when I'm eating, am I wolfing down food, right? Or am I actually tasting it? When I'm drinking my tea, I know when I'm like most dysregulated and I haven't been tending to myself, I've burnt myself with tea. Just like drinking it hot,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's not very tender, girl. You know, so it's those things. It's paying attention to, like, even what am I watching? What am I listening to? Because we can get stuck in the algorithm, right? I get stuck on my social media watching things that are hateful. What am I feeding myself? So really going into the physical of, you know, what am I taking in? How am I treating myself? Is a big piece for me in my approaches. Yeah.
That is powerful because we sometimes forget about how important it is to use our five senses. It's like we just take it for granted. I'm smelling, I'm touching, I'm seeing, and then I go. What are you really seeing, though? What are you really smelling? What are you really feeling? What are you really tasting? Right? Me, everyone say they complain that me eat too slow. For me, from day one, don't bring me to a restaurant if you're in a rush. Okay? Because I'm going to be the last one eating. And it was always this mindful eating of enjoying my food, right? And that's just something that it once I slow down my eating, I actually hear my environment.
And
I hear, you know, what's going on or what's not going on or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So that's for me. But the question I wanted to, you mentioned something like remembering who you are, and what is ringing in my brain is authentic self. And I think I mentioned this on another show. In metaphysics, we talk about false self and true self. And true self is your authentic self. So who you were from the time that the sperm and the egg met, boom, your talents, your gifts, your intelligence, everything was packaged, pre-packaged. And that's the authentic self. But then society says, you're short, you're tall, you know, this is wrong, this is right. You know, say please and thank you, have manners, blah, 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 blah. And then we create this personhood, this false self. So how can one use some daily, maybe techniques to remember their authentic self?
Such deep questions, so early in the morning, but
I know.
you know what comes to mind? It's coming back into what we were just talking about, that mindfulness, right? Because if I've never sat down and asked myself, like, wait, how do I really feel about this? What do I really like? What do I need? What do I want? What makes me feel happy? What makes me feel sad? If I don't make time for that, to actually connect with self and get to know self and be aware that there is that exists for me. Because sometimes how we're socialized, right? Where we grow up. I know for a lot of us, maybe in Black and brown cultures that are collectivist, we have a lot of we thinking. So we kind of just like, okay, we act this way, we think this way. But there's always an I in the we, right? In Ubuntu, where like in Southern Africa, we say I am because we are. So if I can sit with myself and ask myself those questions, so it goes to mindfulness-based practices. And it's not like complicated, like, you know, sit for 2 hours and meditate and get to this place. No, it's sometimes that first thing before I wake up, what is something I want to do for myself today? Are we going to break?
We're going to a little bit of a break.
Pick it up.
Back right after this.
Radio 580 AM, bringing Albertans together.
I wish I could surrender my soul shed the clothes that become my skin, see a light that burns within my needing. I wish I'd chosen darkness from cold. I wish I'd screamed out loud instead of found no meaning. I guess it's time I run far away, find comfort in pain. All pleasure's the same, it just keeps me from trouble, hides my true shape like Dorian Gray. I've heard what they say, but I'm not here for trouble. It's more than just words, it's just tears and rain.
Yeah, we are back here in studio.
Yes.
I was just like asking Millie, what's the over/under that Hatho-Ra knows that song?
I don't know that song.
Told you. I told you.
I was like, she'll surprise us. She always surprises me.
It's like, I told you to know that one.
I don't know that song. I almost Googled it.
It's,
I almost tried to Google it while we were on break.
Oh yeah, no, that's James Blunt, Tears and Rain.
James Blunt,
Yes,
Tears and Rain.
yes, James Blunt.
Okay. Tears. You know me, I'm writing it down. 'Cause I don't want to be caught off guard again.
Solid choice. Solid choice.
I think it's a great choice for this conversation y'all are having.
Yes, the lyrics were beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we were talking about like that mindfulness, right? Those practical things that we can do in remembering who we are and connecting with our authentic self. So definitely the mindfulness is in everything. And when you were talking about being a slow eater, what was coming to me was, you know how when you're doing things intentionally and slowly, you can be more grateful. Like you can really take it
Yes.
in, right? And that's also a big piece of it. Like, okay, I get to do this. I get to live this life, and this is who I am, and I get to wear these colors, and it's in all the little things. And the more we do that, the more aware we actually become of our authentic self.
1,000%. And, you know, what I love about what you said is not only is it possible, but for those listeners, you deserve it. You deserve to be the best version of yourself right now than you were 5 hours ago. You deserve to be happy, to feel joy, even if it's for 5 seconds. Because most people, in my experience with various clients, they don't even know that they deserve grace. They don't even know that they deserve happiness, joy, peace. They don't even know that they deserve to be heard. They think that they need to silence their voice. So a part of like what we're talking about, which is great, on a very, very basic level, I want to encourage people that you deserve to be the best version of yourself now than you were even 5 hours ago or 5 years ago. And what happened 5 hours ago, 5 years ago, doesn't have to define who you choose to be in this here and now moment. And we only have here and now. So if I don't like how I treated myself, this is how I look at it. 5 years ago, I only have the here and now to change, so the next 5 years won't repeat, type of thing. You know what I mean? And I was thinking as you were speaking, and we've had a few conversations in the past, which beautiful conversations, is I want you to share some tips or techniques of how do you maintain your wellness. And I know it's not a consistent thing every single day for everybody, but there's a level of wellness that you have to have when working with clients for sure, right? As a therapist or a counselor. How do you maintain your own wellness? And then the second part of the question is, what are some indigenous and African tips that we can give our listeners in terms of wellness. So you said Ubuntu, right?
Yes.
So that for me is like, okay, if I'm sick, the community's sick. If the community's sick, I'm sick. So I have a duty to maintain my wellness. So that's like a good principle. Even if I want to give up, I can't because it's going to affect the collective type of thing, right? So what do you do to be well? And what are some indigenous ways that you can offer that maybe the average person may not know?
So first part of that, what are some things that I do to maintain wellness? Mindfulness. I try and practice what I preach. So just like even throughout the day, taking moments to check in with myself. Have I eaten? Have I had water? Do I need to go to the bathroom, right? Because when we're busy or we're in autopilot or when we're stressed or when we're just like in the thick of it, we can abandon ourselves, right? So the opposite of self-neglect is self-care. If I'm caring for myself, then it means I'm not neglecting myself. If I've been neglecting for myself, it means I'm not caring for myself. So it's little things, like it doesn't have to be a huge endeavor. It's just like asking myself, what do I need right now? And scanning my body, right? Top to bottom. Like, what does my head feel like? What do my shoulders feel like? Maybe then I feel my shoulders are tense. I need to, loosen up and stretch a little bit. Maybe I'm feeling a tightness in my hips, so it means I need to stretch. But like really checking in with myself physically, emotionally, and mentally, and asking the question, what do I need today? Or what do I need in this moment? Or what do I need this week, right? And then giving myself that. Or reaching out to people within my community, within my, little container that is family, to be like, hey, I need someone to talk to. I need a hug, right? I really need to just take a walk, but I don't know if I can do it by myself. Can we go together? So it starts with checking with self, checking those self check-ins, and then also looking for the resource, whether it's a person in my family, within my friends, or a professional. Sometimes I need to see a therapist and unpack some things that I've heard with a client and that seem really heavy, or, so definitely that for myself. And then in terms of what are some African practices or indigenous practices that I've learned growing up or more recently, community is huge. Finding healthy community and the right community. You know how when we started off, you're like describing me in this way. I'm like, and that's part of the journey, right? And just being in those spaces with people who truly see us, appreciate us, celebrate us, affirm us, challenge us, but can love on us, right? And that comes with trust and finding safe spaces, but it's possible. Baby steps. And then also things that I think no matter what culture you come from, there are things that you just know, that inner knowing, this sense of like intuition that says, I need to drink more green tea, or I need to take more walks, right? Yeah. Those intuitive practices, like what you were saying within like Ubuntu, but also we're all often taught like listen to yourself, like listen to what some people will say the ancestors or the spirit or your higher self, that intuition of like, yeah, the nudgings that come in. Yeah.
Cool. Well, it is 10 to the hour. We've got Miss Lower coming in at 8 o'clock with Latin Hour. I don't know if you wanted to leave us with a quick word while we wrap up here in the next 5 minutes, like a little inspirational thought to take people through the day or the week.
We're throwing that one back to me?
Yeah, throw that one to you.
I think based on today's conversation, there's a reflection that I often use for myself and with like clients and groups. And I encourage you to, even if I don't believe it right now, if I tell myself the same thing enough, eventually I'm gonna convince myself, right?
Yep.
But it's to say there's nothing I could do that could make me love me anymore. There's nothing I could do that could make me love me any less. There's nothing I could be that could make me love me anymore. And there's nothing I could be that could make me love me any less. I am inherently valuable. And that's just to say, whilst we're on this journey to wellness and healing and figuring out the world, like we're already enough in the state that we're in. everything else is just extra. We're just looking for more to get closer to that best version of ourselves. So crawl, walk, run with it. But yeah.
Sweet.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm enough just as I am, and just try just one step at a time, and just try. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This is a good conversation.
And how can people reach out to you on socials if they want to like connect with you, have a session, all that fun stuff?
I am Millie.Mupfupi, Mupfupi on everything. So TikTok, Instagram, Gmail. But yeah, Millie.Mupfupi. So MILLIE.MUPFUPI at gmail.com or Instagram or TikTok. And I also work out of Golden Palm and Wellness Massage on the west side. That's where my office will be.
Cool. Awesome.
Beautiful.
Hatho-Ra?
Yes. Well, I feel filled. And you know what's coming to me is what I think about expanse. So if I want wellness, I should, for me, just have thoughts of wellness. Right? I don't need to do anything. I just need to make sure I have the right mind. Go, and then everything will follow. So I'm walking away that what I think about expands, and so what am I thinking about? And that's it. Just keeping my thoughts in check. But I feel complete. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Big G.
Yeah, for sure. Millie, thank you so much for coming in and riding with us today. As you know, we'll be back next week. I'll be here Friday, 6 till 7 p.m. with the next 48 next Saturday. My partner in crime and me, Daniel, will be here with the Weekend Morning Show. And, of course, Hatho-Ra will be back in studio. Wait, no, she won't be back in studio next week. No, sorry. I'm skipping a week there. But she'll be back with next week from Toronto with Sacred Sunday Conversations. I'm your host, Big G. Thank you for riding with us this weekend. We hope we got your weekend off and flowing through to a good start. As a reminder to our Caribbean folks that are out there, tomorrow is the big conversation with the Premier. Yours truly will be interviewing Premier Daniel Smith down at the Capitol, the Federal Plaza in the Queen Elizabeth building from 5 till 7:30 p.m. It's going to be a great time. And if you can't make it, that's okay. We'll give a wrap-up and round-up next week. And, till then.
Peace out. Namaste.
That's right. We'll leave you with a quick little track. Barris Hammond, They're Gonna Talk, as we take you out on the Sacred Sunday Conversations. We shall see y'all.
Some things remain